Hello, everyone. Welcome back to just another esports podcast. Once again, you're joined by me, your host, Nicholas Shady Bacon, and my co host, Mr. Kevin Hubris. In this episode, we're going to revisit the GAs, the Pro GAs, since they have been updated since the last time we discussed those. We'll also be diving into the first Challenger Cup event that happened just this past weekend. We have the results of the North American, APAC, and EU regions there. So discussing kind of the standings of the rosters and the teams that partook in that. And then we'll also be discussing the patch notes, which will be released as the day of recording this tomorrow when this episode will actually be released. It would have been yesterday that the patch went live. And so we'll be discussing all those kind of three topics in this podcast. I guess before we jump into the first topic of discussion being the Challengers Cup, the rosters, just kind of a refresher since not really anything has changed too much. I believe Florida is probably preparing to announce their starting lineup. It is going to be more than likely at this point Slacked, Havoc,
Yeah.
Awakening, and Caesar Skies. And then the 100 Thieves lineup, there was some worries that maybe Temp wasn't going to be on that starting lineup since he put out a tweet last week saying, hey, who are the best challenger ARs? Let's get this, or something along those lines. So, no, it's hard to tell if Temp's just trolling or if there's a lot more going on behind the scenes in the 100 Thieves camp. But as it stands right now, that is still Slasher, TJ, Tally, Temp, and Kenny.
Yep.
And then we pretty much know kind of like all the rosters except for Paris Legion. We have no clue what the Paris Legion lineup is outside of more than likely scraps, question marks around that, since he did say that the only thing that would stop him from being on a CDL team this season was a visa issue potentially. So outside of that, though, we know London Royal Ravens is Alex. I'm going to screw this one up
Dylan,
again.
Zero, and Johnny.
Yeah, Dylan Zero and Shiny. The Atlanta Phase One, obviously Arcides, Simp, Celium, and Abizi.
Yep.
That one's been known for quite a while. Then
Goats.
obviously you have the Optic Chicago roster.
Equal goats.
Sorry, what?
Equal goats. They're
Yeah,
they're they're
that is,
pretty good roster too.
yep, that is Scump, Dashy, Formal, and Envoy. And then obviously you got Dallas Empire, Shotzi, Illy, Crim6, and Hook. And then you obviously got then New York, which has Clayster, Zuma, Mac, and will be Hydra once he can finally get over to the US. But
Yeah.
currently looking like ASIM's going to be uh, their guy, at least while Hydra's out. And then what other rosters do we have? We got Seattle Surge, Vlooney, Gunless, Pristini,
Preston and old
Octane.
Sam LaRue. Oh, absolutely. Only guy they even kept. They even bothered keeping. Let's see. We also have the Toronto Ultra lineup with classic Cammy, uh, methods, and gosh,
Kleenex.
Kleenex. That's right. Forgot Kleenex. My bad, bud. We also have the LAG roster
Yep.
done, I believe. I don't know.
Yeah.
So we could talk about that more in the Challengers Cup, but or whenever we get to the Challengers Cup. But LAG's got uh, quite a budding roster. Let's just say that. So
Yeah. They're starting though, as of currently, I believe, still is Vivid, Silly, Apathy, and Assault.
yes. So
But that could definitely change. I believe they had a pretty poor performance, and like the one pro, what was it? What was? Oh, it was the Pharaoh.
yeah,
The Pharaoh
that's what it was.
Memorial Tournament that happened. A lot of pro teams were involved in that. Dallas getting, I believe, top 6. Chicago getting top 8, and I believe the Muniers got top 4, and then Atlanta got first
Yeah,
place in
first.
that.
Yeah.
But none of the other top 8 teams out of there. So half were pro teams in the top 8, and half were AM teams in the top 8. And so the other teams that did compete, I don't think I can't remember if New York competed or not. I think I would imagine they did, but I know some of like the pro teams didn't compete with their full lineup. Some of their players might have been busy or something. But I know LAG had their full roster compete. I don't think they did too well. Um,
No,
since obviously they weren't top eight.
no, they did not perform to expectations. That is for sure, and we knew that coming into the season that the LAG was going to struggle. But as we get to the Challengers Cup, we'll talk a little bit more about the LAG Academy, who does not look like they're struggling. And
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty good transition. So if you want to jump into that one, we can
oh
start
yeah,
discussing the NA's Challengers Cup, which did happen. Small prize pool, only $2,500. Nothing big, especially since first place only got 2,000 of that. That's divided by 4 players, so 500 each, and then second place got 500. After that, you were out of the money. Unfortunately, for a lot of these teams, the most important thing for this first Challengers Cup though was seeding, kind of going into the rest of the season.
right.
And so the top 8 teams in this, you had uh, kind of some makeshift names. I'm not really going to kind of go into those, but uh, a couple of familiar names. You had a big throwback, not really throwback squad, but
I mean, kinda.
Carm, yeah, somewhat throwback. Aches Classic, Saints, Karma, all past pros. They ended up in 5th through 6th. LAG Academy, that exceed Mental and Nero, they ended up in that 5th through 6th spot as well. The team, or I guess at least part of the team that won Challengers NA last season or last year, Triumph, that roster of fellow Standy and Royalty with the addition of General, they got underperformed a bit, I would say, in this Challengers Cup to like kind of what we were expecting from them. They got 7th through 8th along the side of Sicario Gaming, which has maybe some familiar names if you keep an eye on the challenger scene of Pure, Raza, Nightmare, and Gunsey. And then in 4th place, we had Westeros, which was Parasite's squad with him, Blast, Decimate, and Neptune. So pretty good showing from them, ending up in 4th out of, it was a pretty large double limb.
Oh, it was massive. I mean, the first day was like almost all day. So, I mean, yeah, this is a massive
Yeah,
tournament.
it was 865 teams is what I'm seeing
Yeah.
on the COD Esports Gamepedia website. So a lot of teams, and they got top 4 out of him, so really good there. I don't know how much longer that roster is going to stay together because apparently some drama happened after the fact,
Oh my
and
gosh.
Neptune may not be playing on that roster anymore, as is kind of the case with every single one of Parasite's
Yeah,
teams.
I was about to say it's a Haggy team, so there's obviously going to be like some sort of dysfunction to it.
Yep. Then Hyper, or
Higher.
I believe Higher.
HYXR. Yeah. It they pronounce it higher gaming. I don't know what it is, but we're probably going to talk about them a lot this challenger season. I will
You
say
think
that.
so? So
Uh
that was a lineup of 3 players I have heard of. I have not heard of their 4th. The 3 that I do recognize, at least in name, is Spoof, Stamino, and Pentagrams. The person I do not is Zinx. That is a bit of a name I'm unfamiliar name, at least in the challenger scene currently.
Yeah, these guys are electric. They play fundamentally well, and there was no hero plays, not even from Penta, who we would have expected. Stamino and Penta were both really good, but I mean, they just fundamentally played better than everybody else. They looked great. So I'm
And then
looking forward to them.
the second place lineup was a squadron of Glow Frosty, Emruiz, Mayhem, and Spart. Emruiz being a player who was in the Pro League during Black Ops 4, along the lineup of E6, and I believe later on he was on Midnight. I'm thinking, I can't remember. I know
Uh,
he wasn't on E6 throughout the whole duration of that
no,
season.
he might have been Midnight. I know they made some changes at the end. That's so long ago. That was the
Yeah, and then
CWL. We aren't even a podcast for the
yeah, and
CWL.
then yeah, and then Mayhem. He was on the Toronto Ultra, but was one of the 3 players that didn't get any playtime on the pro stage
Right.
during the prior CDL season. So those are 2 players that have at least had some kind of stage presence, as well as Spart. Spart played
Yep.
for LAG last season, and he was on the starting lineup for
The second.
actually,
It.
yeah, for a second.
I really thought he was gonna have his 15 minutes of fame, and then I mean, here we are talking about him again. So, you
Yep.
know. congrats on him. Like, I'm always glad to see players come back into the league and everything. You know, gives me hope that it's not over.
And then first place goes to Polyx Zaptius Gravity, who is the substitute for. He was a substitute player on FaZe, I believe, last year, was he not? Alongside of Journey,
Zap, yeah.
or
Wait, was
and then their fourth is Venom.
yeah, Venom. Yeah, they have Venom, Tom Gravity, Zap, and oh my gosh, blanking now.
Polyhex.
Yeah, and Polyhex. So,
Yep.
no,
Interesting name for that team, though. They called themselves Baby FaZe, so I don't know if they're going to be FaZe's academy team potentially, or if they just decided to go with that name.
I, I couldn't tell you honestly. I think that whenever they won the tournament, they had some sort of an org, but it wasn't a big name org. Now that they won the tournament, they've said that they're looking around for partnerships and stuff like that. So, which you should. Once you win the first cup of the year and your name's out there, the first thing that you should be doing is saying, "All right, well, how can we ride this wave? How do we keep the momentum going?" That's what Atlanta FaZe was able to do all last season. Keep the momentum going. Maintain a lead over everybody else, and then get into a good standing for champs at the end. So this team, if they have any hope of maintaining this, they are going to have to get with an org, so that way, the tournaments and stuff like that can be paid for, and people can get paid adequately, all the fun stuff. So yeah, GG's to them. Nick, is there any like big talking points that you wanted to go over with in the challengers before I just start free firing?
I mean, I think I'll give you some free reign to talk about the challengers. Are you still going to be talking about the NA challengers or?
Yeah,
Okay.
I did not watch the Euro or the APAC challengers. Sorry,
Yeah,
everybody else in the
there's not
world.
too much. Yeah, there's not too much interesting. Actually, I think the European ones is pretty interesting. The APAC one, I can cover that in like 2 seconds, pretty much. Obviously, Renegades, they won it. They're going to be winning it probably the entire year. That is a lineup of Fida along the side of Luca and Shox, who, since they're no longer on the Paris Legion, find themselves on that lineup, and then Pred as their fourth. They're probably going to be winning all of APAC for the entire year. The only team that I imagine will contest them is Chief Esports, since that was kind of the only lineup that was able to contest Renegades at all last year, and that's going to be a lineup of Swifty, Crimza, Setsi, and Zeppa. Second place, surprisingly, is a bunch of Apex players who I've never heard of in Cronus Coon, Man of Chicken, Staka, and Limax. I've never heard of those guys.
Yeah,
And
you
then
you could just stop right there then, because I
yeah,
mean,
but
like,
the cool thing in this is fifth, sixth, and seventh were all Japanese teams
actually is
for
pretty cool.
this APEC. Yep, I recognize a couple of the names on there. Alice Wonderland from Scars. I recognize Nico Chan, who was on Cyclops, and then Gengar was on Libilant Vertex. So that was just a little cool point that I saw there. I was like, oh yeah, good to see those Japanese teams, putting up a fight in that APAC region. But yeah, I imagine Renegades is kind of just going to run away for the
Oh yeah,
entire
I mean,
season
you have
in the APAC region.
you have two pro players on your team. Like, that's more than any of these teams even know what to do with. Like, former pros played almost all last year, to my knowledge, with the Parasite Legion. Listen to me go. The Paris Legion. So yeah, I mean, like, congrats, buddies. You guys got your rent paid for the year with APAC Challengers Cup.
I don't know. I don't know about that. They only got $1,000 from that win, and that
Uh,
was as a team.
okay, well, that's
So
never mind. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad that, like, that we have a lot of international support and everything. It is kind of cool to hear about the Japanese teams, because big old fan of Japan myself. So it's always nice to hear that COD is uh taken pretty well over there. So let's see. Well, you want to talk about the Euro challengers. It's probably a little bit more. I mean, we got some
Yeah,
decent
I
players
think it's a
there
little more interesting
for sure.
because I think a lot of the NA like pros that were gonna be that didn't get a roster, they actually found like not a lot of NA pros didn't actually find themselves a pro league spot. I think some of the only ones honestly were Ace Classic and Saints. And
Right.
obviously Karma's retired, so uh, potentially he might come back in massive air quotes, but
Nah.
I doubt it. Um, and so there weren't any, I guess, super interesting pro names that were competing in like the NA that was like, oh wow, they were a pro last year and now they're competing in challengers and they didn't do well. I think the
True.
only one I think rated or played in NA challengers with some guys, um, and they didn't do very well. I think they got knocked out in like top 32 or something, as well as some other squads.
Yeah, there
But
was
there's not
definitely a couple
there's
that
not really any names that I'm like recalling that I already don't see in this top eight that were in the pro league last season. So Europe's a lot more interesting because you do have kind of a lot of more of those notable names, I would say. Um, and so we'll go into the top eight there. I guess one of the interesting ones is Jerd, nowhere to be seen in either of these top eights. That is definitely a big name from the European scene. Um, but going down the list for EU Challengers Cup 1, first place was House Tarth. That was a squad of Defrag, Afro, Gizmo, and Petey, who were all very reputable names from the European scene. In second place was Team Singularity, who dominated the European League for a lot of the prior season.
Oh
It
yeah, for
was
sure.
them and Team Wars kind of went back and forth quite a lot throughout the Challenger season for the European League, and so that's a squad of Detain, Bids, Maple, and Denza. I think the only new addition to that squad is Denza. Obviously, Insight went to Toronto, and then Chain. I don't see Chain anywhere in this top eight, and so I'm not sure exactly where he ended up, but he is no longer with Team Singularity, at least as of right now. Third place is kind of a throwback to the old Epsilon roster back in the day of Dave, Josh, Vortex, and then they're missing their old fourth, but they have a new fourth in Nasty. They got third place. Over in fourth, you have the Spanish Legion. That's not the team name, but you
Right.
got, I'm guessing probably four Spanish players on that roster. Three I know are Spanish. That's Journey, Lucky, Metals, and the one I'm unfamiliar with, I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name. It's like Even Den, something along those lines.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, I have no idea, but they're basically Team Heretics again. So
Yes, which is cool to see them up in fourth place over there.
right,
I don't know if Heretics is going to sponsor them. Currently, they're going under the team name of Rams.
right,
I imagine like we're going to see more kind of sponsors jump into the challenger space once the season starts to pick up a bit, and they can kind of like the orgs can figure out, okay, who are the top teams that we can take under our org name. So
right,
probably not going to have as many of these just extremely random team names as we uh, move deeper into the season.
right.
But in fifth through sixth, we had a squad of Madcat, Weeman, Nolson, and Joe. Joe returning back to, I guess, the pro am scene after his stint as a coach for the London Royal Ravens last season. And then also in fifth through sixth, you have a squad of Brezzy Chain. Oh, there's Chain. I didn't see his name. Urban and Whalers. So you got some. That's like a half French, half European lineup there. And then
Nick, France is in Europe.
UK French lineup. I am sorry to any European fans listening. I, it's an issue with America. I
Yeah, we're
just
dumb.
just
That's
blame
okay.
blame America.
Yep. Just tell us to go back to eating our cheeseburgers at McDonald's, and I mean that's fine. Whatever. Um, yeah. Wait. Was that second place team, right?
That was fifth and through sixth
Oh,
was
fifth or sixth.
those.
Okay.
And then 7th through 8th, I don't recognize too many of the names. I know Callum, Harry, Moose, and Quicker, and BB Connor were kind of some popular names towards the end of last season for challengers in the European League. Um, and so those were two more lineups that ended in 5th through 6th. But yeah, a lot of very familiar names and a lot of players that were in the pro league either during the BO4 season or during the MW season. You see kind of in this top 8 placings over in the European League. And honestly, I feel like the European League is going to be a lot more interesting as it was last year than the American one, simply because you got kind of a lot more big names over in there. And I feel like the
True.
competition might it feels just a bit closer than it may in the NA region.
Oh yeah, because at the beginning rounds of Challengers Cup, like I mean, I wasn't watching. I didn't care. Like, oh man, hey look, Damon's gonna beat up on some team that doesn't have any idea that he's about to be here. You know, they're just gonna be happy. Like the highlight of their life is gonna be the fact that they played 3 rings. Like, you know, but in Europe, you're right. I mean, it's just the CDL is not completely developed there, so all the talent pool that's still there is obviously gonna be concentrated in challengers. So I mean, there's a lot of good that's going on um, over in the European side of challengers, and I mean, I guess to a degree APAC, but they're just behind, and they'll grow, um, assuming that Call of Duty continues to grow the way it is. But speaking of that, um, the CDL did not, and for good reason, they did not decide to invest in any sort of broadcasting or production. Instead, we had community streams, but the community streams were actually massive. I Hold Shift had 27,000 unique viewers over his time in the day one of Challengers Cup, which was their longer day streaming. They streamed until like 6:30 in the morning. Like shout out to Shift and those guys. He put on a great show. And I mean, he kind of did it on the fly. They were like literally changing stuff mid game, trying to figure out Codcaster settings, and I mean, I'm glad they got it all figured out. Um, so we're already starting to see like some pretty good viewership in the challengers, a lot more than what we saw last year. So, the league shrinking down in size, it may seem like um, that might have been like really harmful. But in reality, I think that we're generating a lot of natural viewership as well. So I think people are interested in it and they want to see the challenger scene grow up. So, um, let's see. So that was great as far as like growth goes, and obviously like having big names like Karma um, show up and have a good time and play
Yeah, I
well.
mean, Karma
That
was
was
averaging probably around 10,000 concurrent viewers throughout most of that.
yes.
And
He
if, unfortunately, though, a lot of people weren't like, Karma was, a lot of the people weren't streaming their matches. I know a decent number were, but I feel like there could have been a lot more people actually streaming their matches than there were.
right.
I know Karma was kind of the big one, and then I know Parasite was for a while, and I know General was for a bit, but
Well, I think a lot of that comes to the fact that a lot of these guys are brand new PC gamers. It's so funny watching them on stream. I watched Andy Lacefield this morning ask a bunch of questions on how to switch over his A40 TRs to his A50s. I was like, dude, it's the same thing as a PlayStation, man. You just plug the wires in and then reset your stream. Um, so it's been really funny watching everybody struggle through all of that. So I think that's the big hump that people are still trying to get over is how do I make Cold War work as effectively as possible and then, still be able to stream or something like that without any delays. Like internet is still a concern for some people. But like it'll settle itself out, and I think as more viewership is shown for these guys and more success is shown in guys like Chino and other big names in COD that are going to be residing in challengers permanently for now. Um, I think that's going to be really really healthy for the community. Let's see. Other than that, I was really, really impressed with a lot of these up and comers. Um, LAG Academy looked absolutely incredible. I mean, their search needs a little bit of work, but their hard points they were completely and utterly dominant in. Uh, Chino is leading a group of young talent through challengers, and it's going to be really, really exciting to watch all season. And they're already on LAG, like they're already members of it. So it, as far as like potential for these guys to get called up into the pro league with LAG kind of struggling currently and looking for options, I would continue to watch Nero and the boys do incredible things. It was a ton of fun to watch them. Other fun teams that I'd like to watch. Obviously, Higher Gaming. They did a really really good job just playing fundamental COD. Dross's team. We didn't really talk about Dross's team, but they had Draza, Prolute, Optimum, and Dave Paddy. I don't know, Dav Paddy. Anyway, they were a pretty solid team as well. Unfortunately, that they lost as early as they did. I think they were T16, but they were a lot of fun to
Yeah,
watch.
I guess there are actually a couple other teams with some notable names that did not make that top 8. You had Censor's team of him, Gunjar, Dens, and Zed, all of which were on. I mean, you had 2 players that were on a pro team last season, Dens and Zed, who were on the Paris Legion,
Right.
and Censor and Gunjar were both subs. They bowed out in top 32. Obviously, they had a debacle with, I believe it was Zed's pro points not counting, so they didn't. They had a much lower seed than they were supposed to. And so you can chalk, I guess, some of their poor placing up to that, but certainly not all of it. I mean, top 32, you're still playing some lower seeded teams, I would say. I'm pretty sure they were like 14th seed, so they shouldn't be playing anyone crazy,
Right.
realistically. Uh, Draza's team, they ended up in top 32 as well.
Top 32. That's
And
right.
then a couple notable ones that placed top 16. You had a squad of Brack, Exotic, Proto, and Nagafin.
Mm-hmm.
Proto being a player that played for the Seattle Surge last season. Exotic and Nagafin, they performed extremely well in Challengers last year, so they got top 16. And then probably one of the more, I guess, potentially hyped up Challenger squads this season is the lineup of Kismet, GodRx, Pander, and Mox under the team built by gamers. They bowed out top 16 as well. So,
To be fair, like I said, there's a lot of good up and comers and challengers. This was the
yeah.
first tournament, and I'm really excited to see how much it grows over the season because it's it was thoroughly entertaining. I was enjoying myself the entire time. So
Yeah, and I do hope that they have a bit more formal broadcast because while I do like I hold shift putting everything together as he did to make sure that you kind of had a viewing experience of some of maybe the highlight matches. Uh, Extremely long breaks in between the
yeah.
matches, and
Oh yeah, but
kind of
there was just no
kept kept
there was no broadcasting
it kept
schedule.
yeah, it kept me from kind of staying tuned into that
True.
for an extended period of time. Because most of the time I tuned in, I'm like, oh, I hold shift streaming. He's streaming the Challenger Cup. I'll tune in to watch that. But pretty much every time I tuned in and was there for like 10, 20 minutes or whatever, it was always that waiting for next match screen. So I was usually kind of flipping around between like Parasite, Chino, and Karma to try and see
Yep.
if I could catch one of their matches, see how things were going and whatnot. So definitely would like to see a more formalized broadcast schedule for this stuff in the future. I
For sure.
understand it was the first one, but like the CDL, they need to invest heavily into challengers now that it's actually going to be extremely exciting and entertaining to watch. Like I did not watch a lot of challengers last year, but this year, if they have a good broadcast that is fluid and doesn't have extended periods of downtime, then I will be probably watching challengers pretty dedicatedly.
Oh,
Uh,
for
it,
sure.
especially if a lot of the guys decide to stream their matches and actually have game audio. Because I know General was streaming and he didn't have any game audio at all, probably to protect from stream sniping or whatever. And I guess that's one other thing we can talk about with this. I don't know why you couldn't just put on delay,
Right.
but I guess strategies and whatnot for S&D and things. Eggs Classic Saints and Karma didn't seem to care too much about that. I don't know about
no,
other
absolutely
teams,
not.
but maybe their squad was just a little bit more of for fun, or say, let's see how good we can do against these guys. But one thing that definitely did come up was cheating. There's no anti-cheat, and a lot of these teams
Are pissed.
are pissed for one, and reported, I think, a lot of people for using wall hacks. Wall hacks obviously let you see people through walls, and that's not really something that it's not really something you can prove super well through the in-game recording tool,
Right.
theater
The
mode.
theater clip.
It's not
Yeah,
really
theater
something
mode.
you can prove too well through theater mode, unless it's extremely obvious and they just like track the player through an entire wall
Yeah.
without even having seen them first. Obviously, stuff like aimbots, that's pretty easy to realize in a theater mode because they're snapping unrealistically fast to people and not missing anything. But
Yeah.
things like just turning on a wall hack every now and then, that's a lot more difficult to figure out. And so we're definitely going to need an anti-cheat. Otherwise, this Challengers is just going to be very sketch, and it's going to be very difficult for players that are like up and coming to actually get notoriety and validation in their skill, because if anyone comes up and they're just really good, they might just say this guy's cheating. Like that happened in Rainbow Six. There was a player who was really, really good, and one of
Shoot,
the
what was his
pro
name?
players said like he's just cheating. That's why he's good. And I believe he got I can't remember if he got him like banned for a year or something, even though he like, and then he came to the pro league after his ban and he's dominated then.
Yep.
So it's there's a lot of annoyance and difficulties, but
Yeah, and a lot of
we
it
really do need.
A lot of it simply you're right, just gets fixed with an anti-cheat. Just get an anti-cheat. How hard is it? Like find something that allows you to detect whatever your software is being manipulated, because that's all that's happening.
Yeah, and
So
I mean,
it's I mean, like I could go on all day about it, but I mean, fortunately, we'll say this, and this is going to be a huge change from Modern Warfare to Cold War, is that Treyarch does appear to be listening more.
yes, and that is a great transition to our next talking point, which I want to give praise, because we've harped on the game. We've given it criticism on certain things, certain aspects, as a lot of people have with kind of any game that's released.
Right.
But I want to give Treyarch 100% praise on how quickly and readily they listen to the community to get stuff fixed and to make improvements where necessary. And that kind of brings us into these patch notes that are coming, and there's pretty darn good transparency too with the changes that they implement into the game. Like we'll go down kind of the list of some of these that affect more so the pro play, since there are a decent number of things that kind of fix casual play, like some challenges weren't tracking correctly.
Right.
I know I suffered with that in zombies for some of those. Camo progression, some of those were kind of were glitched. They weren't working correctly. But the ones that more are focused on kind of the competitive aspects, these are mostly kind of spawn changes, I do believe, with some changes to control as well. But going down the list, for hardpoint, we have spawn adjustments to zone 1, 3, and 4 for checkmate, as well as resolving an issue where the hardpoint could be captured behind a crate on zone 4.
Spot.
That was like outside of the building.
Yep.
Garrison zone 1 adjusted to provide more balanced cover to both teams, as well as adjusted spawns for zones 2 and 3. Crossroads Strike adjusted spawns for all hardpoint zones and moved zone 4 to the adjacent tents to provide more opportunities for the attacking team. And then Moscow removes spawns near back statue for zone 3. So a lot of spawn adjustments for hardpoint. Hopefully this will kind of fix a lot of the parallel spawns, because that is, I think, one of the worst things to ever happen in a Call of Duty. Pretty much every time I spawn up now in an objective game mode, I literally have to look left and right like I'm crossing the street before running back to the objective to help my team, because I might
Yeah.
have an enemy literally spawning right next to me and shoot me because I didn't look both ways. I got hit by the car.
Yeah. It's a little ridiculous right now, but it's still not as bad as squad spawns for a competitive sake. Like, it feels like the game already feels pretty good, all things considered. The control was the biggest. Oh well, are we talking about control yet, or are we talking about just the hard point?
Those were the hard point
Okay,
changes.
so
but if you want to
and
talk
no,
about
no,
the
no, no,
control
no.
changes,
I will. I will just as soon as we finish up the hard point stuff. So they've been really good about getting all the credit spots down. There was a spot on Crossroads that came out on CDL Intel that um, that was also like a just not a competitive spot, a non-competitive spot for all intents
yeah,
and purposes.
essentially you could cap, I believe it was the third hard point through a wall.
Yeah, you could cap P3 through a wall, and so they have a good track record with resolving a lot of those, and they understand like, hey, by the way, we kind of got rushed out of this game, so like stuff happens. So it's good that they're working on that consistently. It's good that they're adjusting spawn or adjusting zones and adjusting spawns for zones, because that'll also help out with some of the more money hills, as we call them. Hopefully they're a little bit more contestable, and that's what you really want in hardpoint. You want it to go back and forth, and you want it to be difficult, and it shouldn't be easy to just hold down a hill.
Yeah.
So
I think these changes are going to be most apparent on Garrison and Checkmate, since
well,
those are the two maps where I feel like the parallel spawning happens the most, and those are the
right.
two maps that I will go out on a limb and I will say those two maps Treyarch didn't develop at all. They had no those were already made maps by Sledgehammer Games, because those to me are not Treyarch maps in the slightest. That they are 1-lane maps disguised as 3-lane maps, because you can literally shoot someone from lane 1 to lane 3, and Treyarch has never made a map that is entirely in a building, and both of those maps are entirely. Checkmate is actually just a building,
Yep.
and Garrison is pretty much just a
Damn
building.
near a building, yeah. And
so, like Treyarch has never made a map like that. Only IW and Sledgehammer have. So those two maps to me are not Treyarch maps at all. Like, those were already pre-made and they had to throw them in.
right. So
I can almost guarantee it.
I think that you're right. Both of those fantastic points on those. And I think that those maps will feel a little bit better. Like I said, hopefully on the 16th we get a little bit better maps. By the way, raids coming to the game. We didn't even talk about that. But like our competitive maps, our pools should be a little bit better on the 16th, and we should have like an official feeling game by then. So, but it's just nice to see that they're already working on this. Oh, and then sorry, we totally forgot about the Crossroads one. So the spawns are completely redone. Every spawn is going to get redone. And then they move Zone 4, instead of it being on that back rock, it is now in the tents area.
Near like the cliff.
Yeah, right now it's on
by the tents. That's going to be a very interesting change, because I didn't think that the back rocks area was too bad. Like, obviously that was probably one of the stickier spawns, if not one of the stickiest spawns.
Definitely one of the stickiest
in
spawns.
Hardpoint. Simply because you spawn so close to that objective. But it's going to be very interesting how this new tent one is going to work. You have an extremely long line of sight from pretty much all the way from A spawn all the way to like C spawn at those tents, depending on like what angle you're at. And I'm assuming the team that's defending the hill is going to spawn back at the old
probably back
P4
old P4
spot, and then I'm assuming the other team's probably going to spawn
Like
by like
P1 and then
P2, P2,
like
P1,
ice,
or
yeah.
something like that. But that's like a super long line of sight. So
Well, I mean,
it's going to be very interesting how how big that zone is going to be, and how gunplay happens around it.
yeah, I agree. Um, so um, we'll see how it goes along, but I feel like this is the right play. Just from running eights and watching, this seems like the right change. Oh, and then they removed the spawns in your back statue for Zone 3 on Moscow, which was also another good change. All the hard point change is good. Control, on the other hand, were the probably the most important changes because control is literally was unplayable. It is unplayable at time of recording, and it's kind of embarrassing that we have to kind of struggle through it right now because attack is very very difficult. So everything that they're about to change, you'll notice, is for attacks. So we have on Moscow, they adjusted attack response to reduce travel time to objectives.
They did
I
that
think
for
they
all
did
three
that for
maps.
every single map, and then they made it so A is going to be a little bit easier to capture um, by whatever you've captured B, you're going to start to spawn mid map and checkers. So that's going to be a lot better. Hopefully that should fix a couple of things. Um, but I mean, like the attack response definitely needed to get fixed. They were just terrible, plain and simple. There was just no other way to split it. It was almost impossible to win an attack round as on control right now, just based on how the game is played. The only other big thing that's going to come out of all of this is that they are finally going to fix score streaks. Um,
Yes, that is actually a big change.
yes,
Um,
so
that it's not being made to general multiplayer, though, I believe, correct? It's
no,
only being made to
they're
private games.
only going to do it for private matches, and we will probably see the CDO rule set change accordingly. Um, Huge change. Needed to happen. I really did not want to go another year without score streaks.
Yeah, and you could already kind of see them making that adjustment, like,
Right.
because they made they like kind of, it's a two-part change to actually get the score streaks to work like how we want them to work. The first being you being able to reassign the points for score streaks so you can decrease the cost. And then the other one is this new change that's coming into customs games, which is the score streak death penalty or reset on death, which you can um, set from a percentage of like 0 to 100, where like at 100 all score is lost on death, which is what we want, and
Yes.
we'll have it be how score streaks were in prior titles.
Yeah, and as soon as that's done, I feel like control is going to feel a lot better. I feel like a lot of the problems that we've been seeing in control, where attack has just been near impossible, will be fixed by, oh man, I can just drop a streak on it. Now they have to worry about how we're gonna play that, or you can streak the
Yeah,
cutoff
it
or something to that
it's
effect.
only going to be a two-streak game though. It's going to be the mortar strike and the missile, the predator
Oh
missile.
yeah, the artillery and cruise missile will probably be the only streaks available. Um,
Yeah, I imagine they will. I can't see them letting RCXDs be a thing, simply unless they raise the cost of it to like be equal to that. But even then, I don't know. The pros have like a little vendetta against RCXDs. I think I don't know when that started, but uh,
I'm not
they
sure, but I mean, I'm just glad that we have the opportunity for score streaks
yeah.
again. That's very important. The next thing would be to see. Um, the next thing on the list would be to see if we can fix up some of the aerial score streaks because right now the Sigma's banned. You know, so we don't have any way to deal with that currently. Maybe they'll make the change. Maybe they won't. Who knows?
I
Um,
mean, what do you mean deal with aerial score streaks?
So originally, in previous CODs that had aerial score streaks, you had it so that way your rocket launchers did more damage and they would kill them in two rockets.
Are you
with
talking about in pubs or in?
no in competitive.
Yeah, well, in competitive, I imagine the only thing that's going to be allowed is the predator missile and the artillery.
For now, yeah, but who knows? Later on, maybe they change things up and we can see
I
aerial score streaks to come back.
I cannot see them adding any of the aerial score streaks in, um, simply because they're well, I guess they're super overpowered.
They're good.
Uh,
They are good, but I feel like I said, if they unban the Sigma and then get rid of any damage that it can do to people, like they did in Black Ops 4, and make it so it's a 2 rocket kill, I feel like they could bring in the attack helicopter.
I don't even see why they would need to do that.
I
Everyone's running flat jacket anyway. No one's getting killed with the Sigma.
oh
Like if
yeah, I
we're being
mean
honest here, no one is dying to a rocket launcher. They
for
don't even
sure.
need to ban that thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
It doesn't even kill a hardcore in one shot if they have flat jacket. Like really?
Yeah, I mean it's Flak Jacket needs to be the next thing on the menu if we're
Yeah.
being honest.
If you want to like kind of move this discussion of like the changes they're making now into kind of changes that I think we would like to see, because I think the flat jacket change is definitely one that I would like to see. Right now, it takes 3 Simtexes to kill a person with flat jacket. Even if you hit them with 2, they won't die. They'll have, I think, like 10 health left or something along those lines. I'd be interested to see if maybe frags do more damage than Simtexes, because they take longer to explode.
Right.
I don't know if that's been tested. It certainly isn't something I've tested, but 2 Simtexes should take out a person with flat jacket, especially since trophies are on the map so much. Um,
Yeah, and that's
and
another thing with the current rule set. There's no limit to trophies or anything like that. The trophies are still really oppressive even with GAs. The fortunately we're getting the perks out of the way and we're trying to make that a little bit more competitive so that way people are forced to run, you know, um, they're forced to run just 3 perks and they can't stack up tack mask and flak jacket if they want to. So,
yeah, I think. Well, I don't want to go into like I guess a GA. I kind of want to keep it in change like general changes that like Treyarch could make that we would like to see, and
right.
then like
Oh,
shifting
fair.
kind of like the GA stuff, because the two kind of go together, but they're also kind of like separate on who needs to like make the change. Um, but yeah, I definitely like flat jacket needs to be addressed. I'm going to be interested to see if control does play better with these changes. Obviously, it'll play slightly better, but I do want to see if like the cap time, because I know that was a big complaint too, is that it took too long to capture the point because you had that one less person, which I don't know if that's like a set thing, or I feel like for control to make it so that it can work with any number, the time it takes to capture should be dependent on the number of players on a team. So they could just do
Yes.
some variabilistic algorithm there, uh, on the back end to make it work so that if it's 4 players on a team, then it caps this fast, or if it's 5 players on the teams, it caps this fast, so that they wouldn't have to like make a hard coded change, which I'm pretty sure like right now the value is hard coded, which is like if 1 player's on the point, it goes up this quick. If 2 players, it goes up this quick. That's like what I'm assuming it is right now.
Right.
Um, and going back to like the streaks, whoever is the person that made counter UAVs take 2 rockets to blow up, I despise you. Like
Facts. Same.
you
RT.
literally need to like 6 stack in pubs in order to survive, pretty much. Because everything counters everything, so it's just already super beneficial to have someone on your team that can counteract certain things that the enemy is throwing out. But even more so to take out streaks, because usually I'm the Rocketeer that's
Right.
blowing crap out of the sky to help my team not get just absolutely destroyed by streaks. UAVs still only take 1. Great. But counter UAVs taking 2, and those are probably used more than UAVs now in public matches, is just one of the most infuriating things imaginable. And then you have the chopper,
Chopper
the
gunner that
regular.
takes like 35
I
shots. The
Yeah,
attack helicopter takes like
the
4 or
attack
5
helicopter
shots.
takes 4 rockets. Like at that point, I am literally strictly running air superiority to get that crap out of the sky
Oh,
as
that
soon as
air patrol,
possible.
yeah.
Because I can't just shoot it down with a rocket unless I literally have a full team of people pulling out the rocket to shoot it down, because it just takes so damn many. And the SAM
Yeah.
turrets apparently don't do their job well enough. Because, like, well, if someone throws up a counter UAV, SAM turrets get disabled for like a short amount of time, which is insane.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it'll all get figured out, and pubs are kind of in a bad spot right now, if we're being honest. Um, but I mean, it looks like things are shaping up to be okay. The game is
Yeah,
still very new.
it's still a good
Yeah,
game. There's
it's
just like some
still a
things that
month
like I'm like,
old. You
really?
know,
You needed to make counter UAVs take 2 rockets? Really? Really, Von Dar?
yeah, that's Vonderhaar right there. That's Tony Flame and Vonderhaar. They were like, you know what? Let's make Nick mad. So sure,
Yeah.
that's what it was.
Why they gotta do me like that? But I guess we can move on to discuss the GAs now. And I got into a small debacle or conversation on Twitter with Slasher. I
Let it
probably
go.
should have brought up the tweet. It was around GAs,
You
and it was
could
around.
just add it in the post production image. Like,
I'm no, I'm too lazy to do
yeah, put it like
that.
put it somewhere.
um, I'll link it. I'll link the tweet, the thread in the description, so you guys can either disagree or make fun of me, as some people did in the replies to it. But
All right. So what did you say?
whatever.
What kind of stuff did you cap on? Because I
It
actually
was
didn't see this.
around smokes being entirely banned from respawns. It all spawned from a clip of Royalty, who literally just sniped for the first 2 hills on Garrison because the other team couldn't do anything, and I
Yep.
think he went on like a 9 kill streak or something with the sniper, just literally holding down the first 2 hills on Garrison, uh, pretty much by himself, in all honesty. And then
Sounds about
General
right.
made a tweet that says, if smokes are GA'd, then I'm literally going to be running a sniper all season because it's ridiculous. And Slasher said something kind of along the lines of um, kind of insulting General in a way as well, like, oh, why don't you all just actually use teamwork and run a route to break the hill instead of needing to throw a smoke and running in brain dead? So I said, in my reply, I literally copied Slasher's format that he used in reply to General's tweet, saying, yeah, or you guys could un-GA thermals, because you have cold-blooded that can counteract thermals and make you actually have to make a decision in what you run perk-wise,
Right.
um, uh, similar to how you've had to do in every other game instead of GAing it now.
Right.
Um, so that's what I pretty much said. And we had a little back and forth because I did want to understand his point. Uh, since obviously I come from a very pub mindset and he comes from a competitive mindset.
Yeah. He's
So a
like,
little bit different there. And kind of the best reasoning that I was able to get out of him was they bloom, so the smoke pops instantly in this game, whereas in prior games there was a short delay between when it finished kind of its landing sequence and when smoke would start to
oh,
disperse,
true.
as well as aim assist is kind of wonky with smokes currently still. If someone is partially out of a smoke, they'll get full aim assist,
And
while
you
the
won't.
person
Yep.
shooting at them will not. I've experienced that. Um, so that, but like the thing with it is, we said Treyarch has been super receptive to fixing stuff. Both of those are things I think Treyarch could and will fix if you brought it up to them and said, hey, we want to use smokes in this game. Can you please fix these 2 things? Add a short delay to the smoke popping, and also fix this issue with aim assist not working for someone shooting at someone that's partially out of the smoke, but working for someone that is shooting out of it. Um, I think they would do that. Also, I think there was a small issue with smokes not getting blown up by trophies all the time. That was
True.
something that we saw in this patch notes, actually, that is a potential fix of trophies now recognizing projectiles better. So those are all things that could potentially be fixed. And for whatever reason, pros just decide to ban things that they don't need to ban uh, instead of like actually coming up with solutions to deal with them. And like you have thermals. Why are thermals GA'd? They're not. You have cold blooded. It's not like it was in Modern Warfare where you
Right.
couldn't counter thermals, and apparently thermals were like OP or something in that game.
Yeah, thermals were OP in that game. They were
But
way too overpowered.
are they OP in this game? Are they
No,
broken in this game?
not
No.
nowhere near.
So why the fuck is it GA'd? It's just like things like that. That it's like just so stupid. It's so boneheaded. Where it's like because it was GA'd last year, they feel the need to have to GA it again this year. And there's a lot of things like on this list. So we'll go like this is the GA list currently. TAC rifles, AK, 747. That's EU only.
Right.
That's stupid right there off the bat because the Krieg and the AK are pretty much equal. TAC rifles are obviously the best weapon in the game right now. I just got gold on 2 of them. I was still losing certain gunfights if I couldn't get both bursts off. Like there could be an argument made for the TAC rifles. I think if they decreased the burst, like the shooting speed on them, because like in prior games we've had weapons that can one burst. Like in Black Ops 3, probably one of everyone's favorite gun, the M8, the M4A8 or the M8
M8A1.
A4.
M8A1.
What was it?
M8A1 or the M8.
M8A1.
Yeah.
If you hit all 4 shots in that 4-round burst, you would single burst someone, and no one complained about it then. But nowadays, you got the AUG and you got the M16 that can one burst someone. I'm pretty sure the AUG you can't even one burst unless at least one goes in the head. The M16 you certainly can joke some people up close with that with one burst.
Yeah,
I
M16.
certainly experienced that, but like there are some things that can get played around with to make that fair, and we can have one burst weapons in the game without like needing to throw a fit and having them instantly banned.
I think
Going in,
I think a lot of that stems from the fact that the SMGs are just so weak right now, and
the
attack
SMGs
rifles.
are really weak, but the maps are made for ARs, and that's kind of like why you don't really have a lot of these close range engagements.
To a degree, but I mean, you also still need like a pretty healthy submachine gun meta in order for tac rifles to not be absurdly OP. Because like tac rifles should naturally be countered by subs. Like it's you can close the distance really well, and tac rifles are really unwieldy in comparison to ARs. ARs where they can win close range occasionally against subs. Like burst rifles should just really never win. So once the submachine guns get a little bit better. They keep tinkering with those. I think we're really close right now. I'm really happy with all of the current feels for the ARs and submachine guns. Once they like I said, after tomorrow or yesterday, whenever we post this, submachine guns should feel a little bit better just because the spawns are going to be a little bit tighter, and hopefully that means that there's less running a million miles to go get somewhere. So, especially as a sub where you got to get up close to. So, I think that some of these GAs will fix themselves. And
and tac rifles isn't one I'm like so hard pressed on. One because like they banned the entire category, so I'm like happy about that. That it's not just like one gun or something. It's the entire category. I'm a lot happier if they do something along those lines. I think it was just a point I wanted to, that came into my head. I'm like, we've had one burst weapons in the past. Like,
true, we've had
it's
the
not
M8.
some crazy new thing. But then going on to like the perks and wild cards, no gearhead, no perk greed. Honestly, like for wild cards, I think all of the wild cards should be banned outside of Lawbreaker. And just say no overkill for Lawbreaker, because then you get 3 perks. You only get 3 perks, and you get to make a decision of what 3 you want to run because you can take them from any category. So it adds a lot of decision making and counterplay to what people decide to run on a team, and it actually adds a lot of teamwork in kind of like what perks people decide to take, because obviously like if you have trophies or some like pros were saying like maybe we should have at least one jammer so we
Yeah.
can counter trophies like engineer. You're gonna have people that want to run engineer a lot more then.
Right.
And if people have jammers, you're also going to want to have someone that maybe wants to run spycraft, which is that perk 3 that counters jammers and counter UAVs. That's something honestly I'm thinking of running in pubs just so I can stop having to deal with those. But I think that's probably like the best direction to go for perks and wild cards. It is to just strictly say only running Lawbreaker with no overkill.
Um, I'll agree with that to a point. I don't feel like most of the guns benefit an absurd amount to the point where it needs to get banned for gunfighter. Like 3 additional attachments. I think that your main ARs are going to be the ones that capitalize the most off of that, and then past that, I mean, nobody's really going to care that much. You aren't going to have any sub players running around with that. The perk greed makes sense, and
Yeah.
hopefully that turns into a ban because I don't want to deal with that. I don't want people running around with tac mask and flak jacket and ninja and gung ho, and be like, oh no boo boo, you can't catch me. I'm just gonna fly around the map like a madman. Uh, I don't want that. That just it seems a little too overpowered. Everybody's gonna run perk greed, and then it's just not gonna be fun. Um, Lawbreaker feels good, just because you could kind of play with it, a little bit of variety, but you're still punished. Um, or
Yeah.
there's still some cost. Per greed,
Mm-hmm.
there's literally no cost. But at the
Yeah.
same time, gunfighter has a little bit of a cost to it. You can't stack up the exact perks you want. You're gonna have to get stuck with
Yeah.
like,
Because perk 2 is pretty much useless. There's
yeah,
nothing useful in perk 2.
you're gonna have to run scavenger. So now you're trading a perk for 3 attachments, and you have to use a perk 1, and you have to use a perk 3. So you choose between engineer, flak jacket, or tac mask for perk 1. And you choose between gung ho and ninja for perk 3, and that's just realistically how I see competitive COD um for this year at least. And like I'm totally fine with that. I think that that's healthy.
Yeah.
The wild cards feel good aside from that, and I have no complaints with the current GAs for wild cards.
Yeah. I don't either. I really do think that just having like the lawbreakers the way to go, with no overkill, obviously. Just like for simplicity's sake, but like yeah, 3 attachments. I don't think there's like much benefit to that. Um,
Like I said, your main ARs they'll feel pretty good about it just because
yeah,
like you can build some like crazy. Oh hey, look at this! There's no recoil on this Krig, and you can do fun stuff like that.
yeah,
And your main ARs, like I said,
yeah,
they've you know traditionally been the ones that are like, oh yeah, I need like all these attachments on this gun, so that way I can just win better headies. Um,
yeah,
and I'm fine with that. I think right now it's healthy. It doesn't feel degenerate, and that's what we're really trying to go after.
yeah. In the items category, Molotovs.
Yep.
Yeah, it's fire. Um, KGB and the SOCOM Elim, I believe those are suppressors.
Yes.
Why are suppressors GA'd?
Well, suppressors should just be banned in general. I mean, suppressors have always been kind of.
Why?
I mean, because it's a suppressor. Like, I mean, you don't want to
Yes.
like manipulate the mini map. Like, even assassin has felt like it
But
was too much.
you
So
have teammates calling out. Like,
right,
do
but I
people
mean, like,
does a suppressor in a competitive game actually do anything? In my eyes, no. Uh, I think the only pro I remember running a suppressor ever in a game was Nade Shot in Ghosts. He ran a suppressor in one S&D game on his MTAR, and that was it. I have never seen any pro use a suppressor outside of that one specific scenario.
yeah,
And
but
why? Because it reduces your effective damage range, which is something pretty much no one is willing to trade. And in this game, it even reduces your bullet velocity, which is something I know a lot of the pros do not want to lose. So I'm
Right.
just so confused by this GA. Like it just feels like they're banning it because they don't want to have to deal with the slight inconvenience of not seeing a red dot on a mini map, which if you're all on a headset, you're probably getting that call out. Or you hear the bullets, you can usually kind of sound or where the trajectory is coming from. At least
True.
I can in pubs. And so if my old ass ears can do that in a public match where there's 50 million explosives going on, you as a pro player can probably do that in a 4v4 match. So that to
Yeah.
me just feels like a little, it just feels ridiculous that that needs to be something that's GA'd.
Like I said, I mean the pros they play a lot, so they've been testing, and I don't know the exact reason behind it, but personally, if it manipulates the minimap, I'm not about it. So even something like a suppressor, like we banned spy plane for that reason. It's just
Ban spy planes because they show an enemy's location.
right. So by proxy, if there was something that masks your location, that would be minimap manipulation, which is why stuff like assassin is GA'd, not banned. I don't know why. I don't know why it's not banned. Because, like I said, all it does is it manipulates your minimap.
Is it not banned?
No,
I
it's
think it's banned. It's
GA'd.
not under the perk GAs.
Last time I checked, it was banned. Let me pull it up.
Because the CDL did update the rule set shortly after we released the prior podcast, adding back in.
Simtex, yeah, because I mean that needed to happen.
Yeah, that
That
was a
was
weird ban.
well, I mean the pros didn't even respect it. It was literally one day.
Yeah.
We did it that morning, and then I think the next morning it was back.
Yep.
So the only perks that are currently banned per the Call of Duty League competitive settings version 1.0.1 are perk 1, paranoia and forward intel, go figure, and perk 2,
Okay.
tracker. That's it. Only 3 perks
Okay.
banned. And there's only one wild card banned. The rest of it comes through GAs. So
Yep. I
so
believe that wild card is danger close.
yes, Danger Close is the only wild card that is currently banned. Perk Greed is GA'd. The Overkill part of Lawbreaker is GA'd. And what's the other one? I don't even think the other one's that
Gearhead.
good. No. Gearhead is
Oh,
the perk.
Gearhead's a perk.
Gearhead is perk 2. It's getting
Isn't there
GA'd.
only 4 wild cards?
Oh, yeah, that's right. There's only 4. So, yeah, there's Gunfighter, Lawbreaker, Perk Greed, and Danger Close. Danger
Yep.
Close is banned for obvious reasons. We don't want another COD 4.
Okay. So this does not manipulate a minimap. So I want to ask you why this is GA'd. Lasers. Laser sights. Something that's been in every Call of Duty ever is now GA'd. Why?
So I feel like this one comes down to the fact that the ARs who were using Gunfighter had a little bit too much of an advantage when they're using like the AK-47 and the Krig in those close range matchups. So in order to make it a little bit more fair on subs, they decided to just completely GA lasers because subs already shoot well hip fire, but ARs
So
are a
it
little bit
sounds
impressive.
like we just don't let ARs have 8 attachments.
Yeah, no. ARs actually can't have 8 attachments. You can only have 7 attachments. Because everything in that is banned, GA'd, or you just really don't want on your gun, like a flashlight. So, a flashlight that allows you to be seen, in maybe like dark corners or something like that. That's just stupid.
The flashlight increases, I believe, your
reveal distance.
minimap.
It's just your reveal distance. None of the flashlights are banned or GA'd. I don't believe.
Yeah.
Let me make sure.
Maybe they're including flashlights with lasers. Who knows? At this point,
The only attachments that are banned per the CDL are the SWAT 5 milliwatt laser sight and the Ember sighting point because those are genuinely like degenerate. The steady aim laser is, like I said, the only reason why it's currently GA'd is because there's no downside.
So I feel like a lot of these, I feel like so many of these GAs are stemming from the fact that we don't have a point system, and so every character is like a quote unquote super soldier in that they can just run everything without losing anything. in a sense.
In
Is what a lot of this is stemming from.
in the sake of gunfighter, yes, with ARs,
Well,
and like
every gun is guaranteed 5 attachments.
right,
In the past, that would take up points.
true.
It's not
But
taking up points.
I think that the attachments do bring a lot to the game, and I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at the 5 attachment system. Um, the 8 attachment system, honestly, I don't know why the steady aim lasers, GA'd realistically, maybe at higher competitive levels, it just didn't feel right. But honestly, like the laser doesn't really do too much for a Krig or AK. They still absolutely beam and melt, and they only really kind of like, I mean, SMGs would rather have the lasers on them anyway. Like,
Yeah.
but they also
I,
are running 5, so.
I am waiting for the podcast to start up again because I really want to ask this one. Why are thermals GA'd? Why are thermals GA'd? You it counters smokes. It does what you want. Like what do you want? What do you want? Why is it banned?
Yeah,
Why is it GA'd?
right now it's a little bit of ram your head into the wall warfare, and I mean,
And
I like
slashers,
that.
quote unquote, hey, just work as a team and run routes. There's no route to run on some of these maps.
Yeah,
Tell me a
Garrison.
route on Checkmate. Tell me a route on Garrison. There is no route because there is only one lane.
Yeah, true.
There's no way around it. You can literally be in one point on the map and see across the entire thing. You can literally cut off an entire portion of the map by just looking down one line of sight.
Yeah,
And you're telling me to run a route? There is no route.
Everybody's trade and everybody's pinch from one side. And that's a little degenerate right now. And if anybody's wondering why ARs are the meta, it's basically that reason and that reason alone. There's just some points on the map where you just cannot be touched. So there's still things that need to get fixed in comp. There's always going to be things that need to get fixed in comp.
And I wanna bring up my points on why smokes don't need to be GA, even more so, because I'm really passionate about this point. I'm really passionate about a lot of these GAs don't need to be here.
If these GAs change because of you,
my stupid ass, 6v6 pub.
6v6 pub.
I'm against a 6 stack. I'm against a 6 stack. I'm by myself up against a 6 stack. It is hard point. It is crossroads hard point. I'm the only one on my team with a trophy.
Yep.
One person on the enemy team is running engineer. All 6 of the people on the enemy team are running smokes. All of them. All 6 of them.
Yep.
And they all got shotguns too. So 6 stack, 6 smokes, 6 shotguns, 1 guy running engineer. I'm the only guy with a trophy on my team. So my trophy is always gone before they even throw a smoke grenade at the hill.
And you're asking why?
I win.
Okay.
I win. 250 to 120. You're telling me, my sucky ass by myself. And this is skill-based matchmaking, so they're all the same level. And pros shotguns aren't competitive because a noob can use a shotgun and being as good as a pro. So I'm facing 6 motherfucking pros with 6 smoke grenades, all running shotguns at me with 1 trophy that's always destroyed because of the 1 guy that's got engineer, and I win. And you're telling me you can't figure out how to deal with a smoke grenade. You're telling me that?
A single one. Not even
a single smoke grenade. Bullshit. Bullshit. You're lazy. That's what you are. You're lazy. And you ban thermals too, because you're stupid.
Thermals are GA.
Yeah, because the pros are fucking stupid.
I mean, that's the unfortunate part is that
they cause so many of their own issues.
Yeah, and I mean, like, a lot of this is just band-aids right now, and hopefully we can peel them off as the game's competitive settings get a little bit more structured and organized. And I think that we're gonna have a pretty good competitive season. It's gonna be a much better competitive season.
Treyarch has shown that they're willing and ready to listen, and they make changes quite rapidly. And I think also with the new maps that we're getting, I think the new maps we're getting are going to be Treyarch maps, like through and through, not this BS Garrison and Checkmate that are 100% not Treyarch maps. I think, well, Raid is going to be a great addition, and there's going to be, I believe, 4 or 3 others. So Raid's
Yes.
more than likely going in. And we didn't even talk about this, but Cartel is GA'd. They GA'd a map. Oh my god.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't want to play on that map. Nobody wants to play on that map. I
It is a bit ridiculous, like how.
It's just way too
But no,
big.
no. But like the thing, Joey Nubsy tweeted is like, no wonder we can't see over the bushes on Cartel. We're all 4 foot Abizi soldiers because he took a screenshot of the character model drowning in the 4 foot end of the
Oh
pool on
yeah,
Miami. So he's
that's
like,
funny.
we're all just Abizis running around the map. No wonder we can't see over the bushes.
That's funny. Um, but yeah, I mean the GAs they've always been band-aids. They've always been pro patches to make the game competitive.
It just feels like they're getting more and more ridiculous though
I
as
I
the
think
years go on. Like,
that has to
dude,
do almost
Slasher's getting
entirely.
like senile. I swear
Yeah,
with some of this
probably.
shit.
Realistically, you might not be wrong. It might be onto something playing, but um, I think that they'll get changed. It'll come with time, just like anything. The devs will work with the players. They're already starting to do that, and
You
and
say
by the
just like anything, but
I
last year that's weren't working with the
okay,
players.
well
This year,
that was a different
yeah.
studio.
I'll let you talk.
That was a different studio for sure, and I mean I really do feel like this is gonna be a good competitive year. We're already starting to work through some of these problems. We're testing out with Challengers Cup and everything like that to see the competitive problems before the CDL even starts. Rosters haven't even been announced yet, and we're holding cups. So things are already miles better than they were in Modern Warfare. So I'm looking forward to see that continue and progress. And I've been pretty happy so far with all the things that have come out. Devs seem really receptive, and here tomorrow be well, I guess yesterday for you guys. Um, so I'll be on grinding, looking at all the new changes and everything like that, and just
Yeah, I'll be
continuing
sure
to
to tune in some of the pro streams, see how kind of like the spawns and the changes to control affected it.
yeah see what their feedback is. Hopefully things are a little bit better now, and hopefully controls a little bit more playable. Um, I'm really excited to see what streak values everybody's coming up with. And we're gonna definitely see the pace of the map change quite a bit, I would imagine. So I'll be really excited to talk about that next time for sure.
Yeah,
So
we're about like probably a month out before probably a month and a half out before the first event of the year. So still got a decent amount of time for the game to change and for it to evolve and for some of these GAs to be removed.
right,
But only time will tell.
true, true, true.
I think that pretty much wraps everything up. As I said, I'll have that Twitter conversation where Slasher calls me stupid and wishes me a good night. I'll have that tweet in the comment down below. So if you want to look at that thread, you can put it there and some of our little back and forth conversations. Because one thing I do think is really interesting, and one thing I really do want to have a deep conversation with some of these players uh, someday is kind of like when did these things start to become quote unquote an issue for them? Because we have seen a lot of these things in past CODs. We've seen a lot, pretty much all of them, these things that are being GA'd in past Call of Duties, and they were no problem. So it's very interesting to kind of pinpoint that point in time uh, in the variations of the Call of Duty life cycle and where it started to become an issue and kind of why we're at this point that we are now with the GA rule set. Um, but that's a conversation here nor there.
True.
Have anything else to add, Kevin?
Nick, you're stupid, and I hope you have a great night.
All right, cool. Thank you very much. We'll see you guys next time.
All right, later, guys.